These are the best and worst animated movies and TV shows of the year so far. This list won't be in order, but with that said, we are coincidentally starting off with the very best animated project of the year, which is, I think, fair to say, X-Men 97. This thing absolutely blew away all my expectations and was pretty much amazing on every single level. First of all, that animation was absolutely gorgeous. You can tell this took a lot of inspiration from different anime and 2D art styles, and I really loved how it looked. I also just love how this gave every single member of the X-Men so much different time to shine. We got to see so many different dynamics and relationships between different X-Men in this series, and I just loved how they were all portrayed. They all had their big moments, especially people like Gambit that were just incredibly epic. I seriously think there was maybe like 2 or 3 episodes that it was fair to say were maybe like mediocre, like 6 to 7 out of 10s. Every single other episode of this was easily like over an 8 out of 10 with multiple just perfect episodes. Absolutely insane how hard they went on this. Garfield is easily one of my least favorite animated projects from this year. This just felt so unbelievably lazy, and my biggest beef with it is that the fact that it doesn't even feel like this was a Garfield movie. I'm pretty sure this was just some random animated kids movie script that was out there, out and about, and some company just came in and said, hey, we have the rights to Garfield and we have the rights to this script. Let's just put them together, because this does not feel like a Garfield movie whatsoever. The voice cast doesn't help it at all. I love the actors that are in it. Chris Pratt and Samuel L. Jackson are 2 great actors. Hannah Waddingham's in here. I love her. As the voice actors, though, in this movie, they did not care whatsoever. It is unlistenable almost. I just hate when you can tell a movie is made purely just for profits. Like, there was not 1 ounce of care or thought put into the story or anything in this to try to make it remotely memorable. They just tried to make the most palatable and generic thing ever, and that's what they did. Everything negative I said about the Garfield movie is pretty much a positive for The Wild Robot, because it's pretty much the opposite of the Garfield movie. You can tell there was so much love and heart put into this film. They truly cared. Every single scene in this movie looks absolutely gorgeous. I love the animation and art style. I literally think you could pause this movie on pretty much any scene and get something that looks like a wallpaper. It is literally gorgeous. And I saw that people were saying this movie was super emotional beforehand, but going into it, I was like, I'm not really a crier in movies, and how emotional can I really get over watching a robot kind of take care of this little goose and become friends with a fox? Like, it sounds cute and all, but I'm not going to be crying. It's not like this movie had me absolutely bawling, but there were multiple moments all throughout the film that just had me constantly on the brink of just tearing up, and not even because all the moments were sad. Yes, there are sad moments in this movie too, but there's just so many great emotional moments and bonds between these characters, watching them just grow and make mistakes together. It was just hitting me in all the right ways. Voice acting was incredible pretty much across the board. You have some great supporting characters like Pedro Pascal as the fox, and then you have Catherine O'Hara. They gave some really great comedic moments to the movie, and then Lupita Nyong'o, obviously as the main robot herself, was just absolutely incredible. Truly one of the best animated movies we've seen in years, honestly. Before we get back to the negativity and the worst of the year, let's keep the positivity going for a little bit longer with Transformers 1. As you guys know, I said this movie, I think it was going to flop, which yes, it's sadly not doing well at the box office, and I thought this thing looked absolutely horrid from the trailers. The tone of it just seemed way too silly and goofy and not funny, and it just did not look good. I didn't care for the character models or anything. I pretty much wrote this movie completely off, but I was like, whatever, I'll go and see it. There's an early showing. Let me just sit down and not judge the movie too harshly before I've seen it, and I'm so glad I did, because I love this thing. I have to say, I still don't love the character models, but later in the movie, I think they do improve once they're kind of like evolving and stuff, and it didn't take me out of the film, and I actually thought the animation did look really good. But what really worked is that this is just such a great story. They took a origin story that we all kind of knew the loose ends of Megatron and Optimus Prime, and a story that you all knew how it was going to end, but somehow still made all the moments in between feel shocking and have so much weight to them. Seriously, the last 30 minutes of this movie are some of the best 30 minutes of any film this year. It went so incredibly hard. There's scenes that, yes, rival some of the scenes in Spider-Verse of the epicness. The action was absolutely insane. It's just like a long battle for the last 30 minutes. Absolutely peak, and I cannot wait to watch this movie again. I hope it does well in the box office so we get another one. That was way too much positivity for me. We got to bring it way down with Despicable Me 4, because this was an absolute atrocity of a movie. Now, I know what everybody always says is, yeah, you're too old for this. You're not the target demographic, and it's for kids. Just let them enjoy their stupid movie, whatever. That's fine. I'm not taking away from any kids that like this movie and have dumb fun with it. The thing is, there's really good Despicable Me movies, particularly the first one. I think is a great animated kids film, and it really has great humor in it, and it's just a fun story all around. This is a franchise that has completely ran out of steam, does not have any idea what to do with the story. This pretty much exists as a marketing ploy to just make Mega Minions for selling toys. They have nothing to do in the movie. Rue's entire storyline is incredibly stupid. He goes on a stupid side quest for like 40 minutes in the middle of the movie. You can literally tell watching this film they had no idea what to do with any any of these characters on how to keep this franchise going, but they make so much money they just had to put something out, and they're probably going to make like 5 more of these things somehow. It's not like I absolutely hate Despicable Me. I think the first one and even the second one have some really great and funny moments in them and are just good movies overall, and this was just such a fall from grace and a franchise that needs to end, but it won't. I feel like a lot of people forgot we got the second half of Invincible season 2 just earlier this year, and I feel like a lot of people online are really judging this season very harshly. I don't think it's quite as good as season 1 overall, and there's definitely a lot more down and slower moments. I feel like they're just kind of padding out the runtime to get through this season and building up a lot of things for season 3. But I do think this season on its own was still a really good season of television. I love the character development for Mark and where he ended up in the end of the season. Again, it has me super excited for the future. Some of the stuff towards the end with Angstrom and the entire final episode was absolutely incredible in my opinion. So yes, overall it was kind of a weaker season than season 1, but when season 1 was so good, that doesn't mean this is automatically bad. I still thought it was really great and I had a lot of fun with it. Do not worry, I'm not going to spend that much time on this one whatsoever, but yes, I have to talk about Megamind versus the Doom Syndicate a little bit because we all know this is like probably the worst movie of the year. Still, not just animated, just overall. Again, one of the most lifeless sequels to a movie I've ever seen in my life. They completely slashed the budget and made this just to promote their new series that nobody cares about. Taking a beloved first Megamind movie, they literally could have just brought back some of the cast, like at least bring back Will Ferrell, even if you don't want to bring back some of the other big names, I'd understand, and bring him back. Have the animation team actually get a decent sized budget so they can make something that looks better than a PS2 video game cutscene, and put this in theaters, and you could have easily had a smash hit on your hands. They decided, no, we're just going to give you the most low budget, low effort thing imaginable. We introduced the Doom Syndicate as the new characters in this. I'm sorry, everyone that was voicing every single member of the Doom Syndicate sounded like they never did voice acting before in their life, and maybe they didn't, but that's not on them. I don't really blame them for their performance. It's more on the studio for just trying to cut costs in every way possible. Wistoria Wand and Sword was such a huge surprise for me because honestly, I didn't even know the show existed, and I was just browsing around one day and I was like, oh, here's this anime and it looks like kind of something very loosely related to Harry Potter, which is probably my favorite franchise of all time, so I'll give it a shot because I like anything to do with wizards and wizarding schools. And I really just love the vibes of this entire series. It follows this main character, Will, who's kind of the only person in the wizarding school that can't use magic, but he's really gifted with a sword and is super powerful because of that, even though he can't use magic, but he's kind of looked down on by all his classmates. And I won't lie to you, the show definitely slows down a little bit in the middle. There's a few really dud episodes that are just kind of filler, and there's some really tropey aspects of this that you kind of expect from an anime like this, but overall I think it kind of separates itself and has its own unique style and some really likable characters. If you're someone that either is a fan of Harry Potter or just likes watching some incredible animation, I definitely recommend checking it out. It's only like 12 episodes for the first season that just came out. Put down your pitchforks. Ultraman Rising is something that I can look at objectively and say, hey, this was made well, the story is perfectly fine, the animation actually looks really good in certain elements, and there's good characters in the movie. This is simply something that just wasn't for me, and I'm not gonna lie, I did not enjoy my time watching this whatsoever. It's just a little bit too cutesy for me and just kind of not my alley. I'm so glad there's people out there that really love this story. I just really could not connect to any of the characters as much as I was wanting to, and it's something I'll definitely never rewatch in my life. Adventures with Superman had its season 2 this year. I had actually never even seen season 1, but I binged through it and season 2 for the first time this year, and I had an absolute blast with this show, and I definitely think season 2 was an improvement. I think Supergirl really added a great dynamic into this season, and it kind of goes bigger and bolder than the first one while still keeping just that same kind of wholesome and heartfelt attitude, which is what I want from a Superman project, honestly, not like the super dark and gritty Man of Steel Zack Snyder Superman. Bad Batch was a super disappointing final season to me. Now listen, I could never really get into the first 2 seasons of the Bad Batch. I just think it's a painfully mediocre show that every time something interesting happens, either Omega just backtracked it and completely undid everything the Bad Batch has worked for, or B, the show just stays way too still for way too long. And that's my biggest problem with season 3. We get Omega in this prison and she's just stuck there for like the last 6 to 7 episodes. It feels like you're watching the same episode over and over again trying to get to the final. I'm not gonna lie, the final was kind of just disappointing to me. Like, it wasn't bad in any ways. I thought the time skip was fine, but that's just how I felt about this entire season. Perfectly mediocre and boring for most of it, so it gets kind of a negative score for me and goes in the worst category. I really love Batman Caped Crusader that came out a couple months ago. I thought this was such a fresh take on so many iconic Batman villains, seeing them in a completely new way. The score was out of this world and really just built up this version of Gotham. It's one of my favorites we've ever seen on screen, honestly. The show's almost more about the villains and Gotham City itself than Batman and following like the police commissioner, and I found that to be a really interesting perspective, an absolute banger of a series in my opinion. Check out another video on my channel below, or subscribe to my new Vets Reactions channel if you want to see me react to a whole bunch of different shows and trailers. I'd really appreciate it. Thanks for watching.